At 07:16 a.m., 17th of September 1940, thin mist clung to Kent's chalk ridges. On RAF Tangmere's flight line, the polished spinner of a Hawker Hurricane Mk1 glinted through haze as Squadron 257's pilots climbed in. Engine roars snapped awake. In the control tower, a radio crackled. Scramble. Bogies at 20,000 feet, heading east. Down in the hangar, Flight Sergeant Desmond Cooke wiped grease from his hands, listening to urgency through steel doors. Cooke had worked nights rearranging the propeller pitch control, an unapproved experiment. The Hurricane's Rotal constant speed unit had given extra edge, but only a handful knew it. Now Messerschmitt Bf-109s were inbound. If the blade pitch failed, pilots would pay with their lives. If it worked, they might, for the first time, close the gap in climb and speed. The first burst of German cannon fire would tell the story. 07:02 a.m. at RAF Tangmere, West Sussex. Desmond Cooke, aged 28, lean in oil-stained overalls, thumbed the logbook of the aircraft servicing bay. The Hurricanes stood arrayed in neat rows under pale light. The Merlin third engines hushed. The Rotal propellers still. Each plane carried extra nervousness today. Squadron leaders had briefed on incoming raids. Cooke mentally replayed the problems. The two-position de Havilland propellers were choking Hurricane performance against German fighters. According to archived minutes of Fighter Command's engine committee, the two-position units limited acceleration and climb. He picked up a blade, ran a finger along its cord, listening to the hum of low RPM, something he hoped to change. In the briefing room upstairs, pilots were warned. Expect Bf-109s at 22,000 feet. Don't get surprised underneath them. Cooke listened through thin floorboards. His goal, take a Hurricane from acceptable to match fighter. The men in flight suits did not know the detail, but they trusted the machine. From the workshop came the smell of oil and the rhythm of pneumatic tools. He adjusted pitch links, checked hydraulic pressure of the constant speed hub, Rotal type. The morning sun pushed through hangar doors, glinting off the hub, literal chance of breakthrough. A young pilot swaggered by, Sergeant Pilot Peterson, grin bright, but the grin faded when he saw Cooke's serious face. "You ready?" Peterson asked. "It'll climb faster," Cooke answered quietly. The pilot nodded and moved on. Cooke returned to the blueprint, his clandestine wedge under Air Ministry code, a final turn of his spanner. As he closed the toolbox lid, the sound of the air raid siren echoed from the North Downs. A moment of hush. Then the roar of engines. The forward motion begins. The propeller hub spin he worked on could decide whether this Hurricane outruns a Bf-109 or chases it, and he didn't know yet which. 8:10 a.m., the pre-flight inspection. Peterson walked around Hurricane P for Piper, running his hand across the leading wing edge. He checked the oil header tank, looked for skin, wrinkles, gauged the propeller pitch lock indicator. Cooke watched from his bench, nervous. As Peterson climbed in, Cooke slipped in a note taped behind the cockpit latch. Set pitch to full fine below 15,000 feet and switch to course above. That note was unsanctioned, unsanctionable. Peterson radioed the ground crew. "It's ready, Cooke." The starter jack cranked. The Merlin coughed and settled into steady idle. Cooke stepped back. He imagined the climb rate. The manual said 2,600 feet per minute, but with constant speed maybe 3,000. Rival Bf-109E claimed climb of 2,800 feet per minute at sea level. He told himself, every foot counts. They taxied out. The propeller sliced morning air. On the runway, Peterson advanced throttle. The hub spun. The pitch actuator whined softly. Lift. The Hurricane leaped forward. Cooke watched the propeller blur. The plane lifted. Wheels retracted with the click and whir of hydraulics. He felt a tightening in his chest. If the pitch failed to change properly, the engine could overspeed or lose thrust. The aircraft lifted off, banked toward the channel. Cooke remained on the ground, tools in hand, heart in the sky. The engine note changed as the craft accelerated, pure mechanical poetry. The pilot radioed, climbing through 12,000. Cooke wondered, would the fine pitch retain, or would it stay coarse and throttle back? Duration of effect unknown. He held breath until the call. Reach 16,000, switching system now. The click of the propeller controller behind the firewall, fine to course. Good. The message returned. Climb improved. Cooke exhaled, but his relief was brief. The radar blip flickered on the screen in the tower. Incoming raid, 20+ fighters, German Bf-109s escorting bombers. The escalation begins. The unsanctioned note and the pitch change behind the cockpit latch could now be the difference between interception and defeat. 14:45 p.m. at Fighter Command Headquarters, High Wycombe. A memo circulated. Hurricanes upgraded to rotor constant speed propellers now in service across operational squadrons. Cooke's workshop was just one link in that chain, but the note he inserted and the adjustment he made carried the secret of real performance. A briefing map showed Luftwaffe bomber streams crossing the channel, escorted by Bf-109s. The numeric ratio, on this day, 30 German fighters, 45 bombers. The goal, keep them off the southeast. In the hangar, Cooke stood beside another engineer, Staff Sergeant Lewis, who said, "Control's moving faster than us. We'll have to adapt again." They exchanged silent looks. Cooke knew the Hurricane's earlier two-position prop-limited climb and acceleration. This constant speed system changed the dynamic, but it pushed the gearbox, the hub, the pitch axe beyond original spec. If one link failed, engine or prop, they'd lose the aircrew. He touched a hub, felt the ridges, knew fatigue could develop. Meanwhile, on the airfield, the pilots gathered. Run-in, checks, oxygen mask, intercom jacks. The engine idle warmed colder morning air. A pilot said, "If I'm above them, I'll try the vertical. If they roll in behind me." His voice trailed. They shared the fear. The Bf-109's DB601 engine had fuel injection and no cutout in -G, something the Merlin carburetor combo struggled with. The war of machines and men. Cooke walked out to the line, saw Peterson strapping into the cockpit. He placed one hand on the fuselage, whispered, "Bring her back." The bomber warning tones in the tower sounded again. Engines spun. The ramp was alive. The broader conflict was moving faster than logistics, and one engineer's modification might now meet its true test. 06:57 a.m., 18th of September, 1940, RAF Kenley. Dawn yellow light fell on the taxiway. Peterson's Hurricane P breathed on the step. Cooke watched from the workshop window, the outline of the hub and tri-blade prop clear, a scrambled alarm. "Bandits inbound from the southeast. Scramble now." Peterson lifted off. Climb was swift. Cooke's stomach turned with the prop noise. In the air, Peterson leveled at 18,000 feet, spotted the formation, Ju-88s, escorted by 6 Bf-109s. He throttled into climb and switched pitch to course via the knob behind his seat. The engine note deepened, bank steepened, wings cut through pale blue. He pulled a half roll, causing one Bf-109 to peel off. He opened fire. Tracer streams crossed the sky. The German fighter dove away. Peterson pressed home and saw the tailplane of the bomber ahead. He burst the bombers with 12 303 machine guns. Meanwhile, Cooke monitored the return radar updates. Peterson reported, "Tailing the 109, I've closed altitude 500 feet. That margin he'd hoped for. But suddenly Peterson's voice. "Oil pressure droop on propeller hub." pitch control warning light. Alarm at ground. Cooke leapt from his bench, sprinted to phone. Get a chase plane ready. Minutes felt like hours. The prop hub's spindle may have overheated. Peterson radioed again. I'm coming back. The Hurricane burbled into descent. The crew on the ground breathed. It landed with hub temperature at 115 degrees Celsius, within tolerance but near limit. Cooke inspected the hub, found microscopic fatigue cracks in the actuator arm mounts. The adaptation had paid off but had pushed the component hard. The modification worked in combat, but the gear was hardly approved, and a failure could cost a pilot's life. 14:20 p.m. Hangar 3, RAF Tangmere. The line of Hurricanes sat silent, engines cooled. Cooke and Sergeant Lewis knelt before a segmented prop pitch controller. They removed the hub cover and found minute scoring on the spline drive. Cooke frowned. He recorded the measurement. Run out. 0.04 inches, close to upper tolerance. The journal note. Inspection interval halved. He didn't show it. He remembered the memo from the Ministry of Aircraft Production. Time is of the essence. Upgrade constant speed propellers across all front line. Hurricanes by mid-August 1940. They were 6 weeks late, and the Luftwaffe was massing. He tweaked the actuator torque setting subtly, 1/4 of a turn less tension, hoping for smoother blade angle change. Lewis raised an eyebrow. You want to go that far? Cooke only nodded. Overhead, the drone of aircraft getting airborne echoed in the hangar doors. Cooke headed outside and saw Peterson returning from a sortie. Wings splattered with oil. Peterson lifted the canopy, climbed out with a grimace. Hub warned me mid-climb. Felt odd. Cooke put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We'll fix it. The pilot nodded, fatigue in his eyes. He'd flown 4 sorties today. The war demanded more. Cooke returned to the logbook. Under modifications, he wrote, propeller pitch change, extra fine full up to 15k feet. He stopped, hesitated, erased. The paper must not carry unauthorized notes. The risk. If inspectors discovered the unsanctioned change, the whole squadron might be grounded, but the benefit, speed, climb, survival. Innovation under pressure meant risk for engineer and aircrew. 23:45 p.m. RAF Tangmere perimeter. The hangar lights were low, but the air raid alert wailed again. German bombers approaching the south coast. Cooke slept in his bunk under the workshop, exhausted from the day, but the roar of departing hurricanes jolted him awake. He bolted upright. Outside, the night sky glowed with searchlights. The ground crew rushed out. Engines, starter, jack whined. In the air, hurricanes climbed through moonlit stratocumulus. One pilot radioed, climbing through 22,000. The 109s are above us. We're being held below. The Bf-109e pilots, benefiting from fuel injection and better high G negative behavior, dove from above. The Merlin carb issue still bit. The ground crew reported a failure to return. Hurricane Alpha Lancer lost without trace. The scoreboard, 1 pilot missing. Cooke stared at the image of propeller blades turning in hangar light. Silent threat. He realized the constant speed prop upgrade helped climb, but not aircrew fatigue, or the fuel cutout under -G. The battle was bigger than one component. The next morning, the recovery party reported the downed aircraft crashed in bushes east of Worthing. The pilot couldn't recover from a dive. Cooke stood by the wreck, noted the propeller bent backwards, hub seized. Documentation. Propeller hub fractured due to extended use at course pitch beyond rated manifold pressure. He took a photograph. A quiet vow. We'll solve this too. A pilot was lost. Earned gains on paper must survive in the air. 10:08 a.m. Sector control room. Biggin Hill. Controllers rerouted Hurricane squadrons to maintain altitude advantage. Cooke's modification was being discussed. Hurricanes fitted with Rotol constant speed props now show improved climb. C-log, 2,950 feet per minute versus 2,500 previously. He listened via the workshop radio. The data reached back to his bench. He moved to the test rig, a spinning mock hub replicating field conditions. He ran a cycle, full fine pitch climb, then rapid dive to course. The metal hummed, the grease thinned, the hub heated. He measured temperature after 10 cycles, baseline 98 degrees Celsius, his earlier real aircraft reading 115 degrees. He logged the heat rise. The statistic, 17% more thermal load on the hub when operating beyond original spec. On the flight line, Peterson and Flight Lieutenant Clark taxied out. Clark commented, "If we engage the 109s above 20K, we still lose, no oxygen for high altitude climb." Peterson replied, "I'll try to stay under 17K and torque up." They took off, climbing. The ground crew watched the tail disappearing. Cooke watched the tack indicator. He hoped the pitch changes were happening cleanly. The hub temperature gauge on the pilot's panel showed stable. Good, but a message crackled. "Flight L missing wingman, last seen at 18,000 feet, Cooke grimaced. The machine performed, yet the pilot pairing failed. The human factor remained. He made notes for the next hub redesign. The mechanical runs, yet the human cost kept rising. The contract with war demanded perfection." 15:34 p.m., 26th September 1940, south of Brighton. Radar at Poling detected 40-plus enemy fighters and 60 bombers. Hurricanes of 234 squadrons scrambled. 14 machines climbed in 3 minutes. Peterson and Clark in the lead flight. Cooke was in the hangar but kept the radio tuned. In the air, Peterson's Hurricane, propeller fine-to-course switch, engaged at 16,000 feet. The pitch shifted, the engine note deepened, speed increased. He spotted the enemy formation, bombers below, Bf-109s above. He chose to climb fast and roll in under the German fighters. The Hurricanes, with constant speed props, reached 21,000 feet just as the 109s peeled off to intercept. Peterson dove and fired. One bomber burst into flame. The formation scattered. On the ground, Cooke watched the scoreboard update. Hurricane kills recorded. He felt a pride surge. But then came the message, "Hurricane, K for Kingbird down, pilot bailed out safely." Another near loss. The hub temps on returned aircraft showed elevated but acceptable figures, up to 120 degrees Celsius for brief spells. The sustain limit still untested. Clark returned. "That climb carried me above the 109s. I pulled ahead, tail shot one." Peterson grinned inside his helmet. "That pitch change saved me a turn." Cooke allowed a small smile. The modification just proved its worth. Radar confirmed fewer bombers reached target, but Cooke remained cautious. The modifications were still semi-illegal, not yet fully approved by Air Ministry Engineering Branch. If one failed now, the blowback would be huge. He logged, "Proceed with caution, full test regime required." The tool works and is making a difference, but the window for failure remained open. 13:11 p.m., 7th October 1940, skies over East Sussex. Hurricanes climbed ahead of the bomber stream. Peterson's throttle was full. Hub temp 118 degrees Celsius. Climb rate 3,100 feet per minute. He crossed 22,000 feet and heard, "Bandits closing from high 24,000. The enemy 109s dove like hawks. He toggled the pitch switch. The blade angle moved to course. Engine note deepened. He banked. The propeller blades bit air. Then a flash. Warning light in cockpit. Prop pitch actuator fault. The hub froze at course pitch. Speed bled. The Bf-109 attacked. Peterson pulled G's, toggled his fuel mixture. He heard a crunch in the propeller vibration. He imagined the hub fracture. Below, Cooke in the maintenance bay was reading telemetry from the field test rigs. The hub temperature hit 125 degrees Celsius in the simulation. He saw the instrument panel flash. Actuator cycle 10,000 feet per minute, limit exceeded. He realized they pushed too far. He ran to the phone, pad in hand. Stand down Hurricanes of Nora flight for hub inspection, but the order hadn't reached the field yet. From the air, Peterson fought for life, dove low to recover maneuver. The hub temperature spiked. He escaped the 109's guns, thanks to his wingman, Clark's covering fire. They limped back. Peterson landed, engine quit, and the prop was locked at course. On inspection, they found actuator internals overheated, one spline drive deformed. The aircraft was grounded for days. Cooke watched the sheet, field failure, hub actuator heat fatigue. He recorded the cost. One sortie lost, one pilot nearly died. Emotions weighed heavy, the human cost. He stayed late in the hangar, flipped the covers off the hub, traced new microcracks. His hope and fear collided. The modification works, but has now produced its first major crisis. It must be resolved or abandoned. 21:45 p.m. Engineering cell, RAF Tangmere. The room was lit by desk lamps. Scattered blueprints covered the table. Cooke stood before a whiteboard labelled Hub Actuator Cooling, Phase 2. He drew airflow paths, oil cooling jackets, material stresses. He spoke into a recorder. Increase spline diameter by 0.030 inches, add oil jet cooling. Limit continuous climb above 22,000 feet to 5 minutes. Staff Sergeant Lewis said, "We'll need new parts, longer lead times." Cooke shook his head. "We don't have it. Bomber stream coming. We retrofit tomorrow." They prepared a small batch of modified hubs overnight. At midnight, upstairs the flight crews slept fitfully, dreams full of engine warnings and flashing prop hubs. Cooke passed the pilot billets, saw Peterson awake, notebook in hand. He tapped the door. "We're redesigning the hub. I don't want you climbing above 20K for now." Peterson nodded, understanding the hidden stress. At 02:15 a.m., a new memo was drafted. Temporary operational directive until upgraded hub arrives. Restrict vertical maneuvers beyond 20,000 feet. Monitor hub temp gauge carefully. Cooke sent it to squadron offices, unsigned. He knew the risk of being traced. Dawn came. The hangar hummed again. The new hubs arrived from the machine shop, steel cases etched with small r for redesigned. Cooke fitted one on Hurricane Q for testing. He watched the pitch actuator run, the hub warm to 90 degrees Celsius after takeoff, and stay steady. The pilot reported improved climb without warning lights, a quiet victory. The engineer has answered the crisis, but the next sortie will test the fix under fire. 10:22 a.m., 15th October 1940, Channel Front. The radar pinged early. Hurricanes of Squadron 257 scrambled. Fitted with the new hubs, Peterson led. They climbed at dawn light. Hub temperatures stable. The pitch system ready. At 16,000 feet, they spotted the enemy. 12 Bf-109s forming escort for 30 Heinkel bombers. The Hurricanes had altitude advantage. Peterson flicked the fine course switch. The climb set. He looped above the fighters, then dove. The propeller blade saw full fine pitch for climb, then course for high-speed dive. The new hub worked. The pitch changed cleanly, no overheating. Peterson dove at the bomber formation, guns fired. The German fighter tried to intercept him as he zoomed past. Silent moment. Compressor whine. Wind. Burning tracers. He lined up the bomber. Opened fire. One bomber disintegrated mid-air. The escort broke formation as Hurricanes slid between them and bombers. The Bf-109s were now below the Hurricanes, unable to regain height or maneuver effectively. On the ground, Cooke watched the scoreboard. Hurricanes credited with 6 enemy bombers and 109 destroyed. Over radio. "Peterson, you climbed above us. We couldn't follow." Peterson responded, "That prop pitch made the difference." The applause at Tangmere was quiet but proud. Cooke's internal voice, "We did it." In his mind, the stress, the risk, the near loss, they all justified, yet he remained vigilant. Because war doesn't rest. Tomorrow the Germans will bring something new. The modification has shifted the balance. Now the Hurricanes can catch the Bf-109s, but the cost of vigilance remained high. 17 p.m., 30 versus October 1940. The skies over Britain calmer. The main phase of the Battle of Britain eased. At RAF Tangmere, Hurricanes taxied post-sortie, engines cool. Cooke walked between machines, hands on each spinner. He watched pilots dismount, smiles cracked, but genuine. Peterson approached. "Thanks, Cooke. I climbed to 23,000 for first time today." Cooke nodded. In the squadron log, performance statistics. Hurricanes fitted with constant speed props and the upgraded hub showed 18% fewer losses and 12% higher kill rate versus earlier machines. Cooke read the report, then filed it in the archive under his labeling. Project P. The Air Ministry now formalized the upgrade, approving the redesigned hub and pitching system. Yet Cooke was quiet about it. He stayed in the workshop late, polishing tools, writing notes. But the glory wasn't his. The pilots, the crew, they got the credit. He felt the weight of each name lost, each silver star, a silent tribute. The war is not over, but the engineer's work has changed its course. 20:45 p.m., Hangar 3, Tangmere. The air was cool, lights dim. Cooke stood alone by the propeller hub display, removed from an earlier aircraft, cracked. He contemplated it, a symbol of what went wrong and what was fixed. He whispered, "One extra 1,000 feet per minute in climb, one more second on the turn, one fewer bomber through." He looked at the pilot names, Peterson, Clark, King, Lancer. Some returned, some didn't. The upgrade let Hurricanes catch Bf-109s, but only because men risked their lives. In the distance, the engines of departing aircraft throbbed. He heard the metal fatigue, the hub cycles, the air turning. He recalled a quote from a fighter command log entry. "The constant speed propeller conversion gives the Hurricane an unexpectedly good climb performance and is proving decisive." He closed the hangar door, the echo of blades spinning somewhere in the dark. End on stillness, the aircraft line in shadow, a brotherhood of machines and men. The modification wasn't glamorous, it was precise, mechanical, human. Cooke turned off the workshop light and walked away. The next mission awaited. In war, innovation arrives in the quiet hours of the hangar and echoes in the skies where men fight for survival. Records later showed that by November 1940, most frontline Hurricane squadrons operated with Rotoll constant-speed propellers. The performance improvement, documented at 15 to 18% in climb rate, contributed measurably to fighter command's ability to intercept high-altitude raids during the critical autumn months. Flight Sergeant Desmond Cooke's name appeared in no official citations. His contribution remained in maintenance logs, temperature readings, and the penciled notes of squadron engineering officers. The pilots who returned knew the machines that climbed faster carried his precision. In the final accounting of the Battle of Britain, victories belonged to many, to radar operators, to ground controllers, to factory workers, to aircrew, and to men like Cooke, who worked by torchlight in hangars, measuring tolerances in thousandths of an inch, gambling that steel and oil and careful thought could buy seconds of advantage in a fight measured in heartbeats. The war asked for everything. Some gave courage, some gave endurance. Cooke gave exactitude. It was enough.